Yo guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with episode 23 of our Reddit series, and I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for 1000 subscribers and of course your continuous daily support. In order to celebrate this, I created a subreddit where you can submit your own entitled parents or church drama stories. And of course, these stories have a chance that I read them out in the video and give a shout out to you. So please head over to r/ripestories to submit your own story. So without any further ado, let's get annoyed at some entitled parents. Entitled mom on a bus thinks that her son is entitled to my Christmas presents. Over the weekend, my friend held a Christmas party. We had a great time and I was in an amazing mood when I left. I got on the bus back home with a few presents that did not fit in the bag and I sat down. There was also a mom with her small son, but the kid seemed fairly okay at first, so I did not really give it a second thought. Boy, was I wrong. The things that did not fit in my bag were a frog plushie that I bought for myself and it croaks when you press it, which is by the way absolutely amazing, and an Iron Man figurine my friend bought for me. I was chatting with another friend over the phone who could not make it to the party, so at first I did not notice that the kid was staring at my stuff. I told her how I had bought my son a new toy. The son is actually a bigger frog plushie, but that is just an inside joke calling toys our children. Later when I finished the call, the EM approaches me. This is the conversation that went down.
Hey, excuse me, do you also have a son?
I guess she was trying to start a conversation with me about her son, thinking I would relate. Me, no, I don't have a child. I was just joking around really.
Oh, I thought you were serious. Well, who are those toys for then? A younger sibling?
Oh no, these are my Christmas presents. The EM gave me a disgusted look.
Toys? For you? Aren't you a little old for those?
I am 15 by the way, and alarm bells go off in my head, but I keep it polite. Not really? What's wrong with me liking this?
Well, my son really likes the frog and the superhero figurine you have, and I think he would really appreciate them more than you.
Her son looked to be about 3 to 4 years old. What do you want me to do about it then?
Well, you look like a nice enough girl, and my son really loves superheroes and frogs. So I thought you would make a kid's Christmas and give them to him.
Well, okay, but I also like frogs and superheroes. Your son is not special. At this point, I wanted to scream at this woman. Who the hell do you think you are? I've never met you in my life and you think I should become some sort of charity or something? No way I'm giving them to your son. I am not obligated to give a stranger's kids my gifts.
You're so heartless.
She then turned to her kid and said in a really loud voice so the entire bus could hear,
"That bad girl isn't giving you her froggy and superhero guy. I'm really sorry."
The kid starts to cry out,
Iron Man, Iron Man, I want Iron Man.
Well, let's make a deal. You give me the superhero figure and you can keep the frog.
So what will I get out of it?
The feeling that you get when you see a kid smile.
I could not care less about your kid. I then held my frog and figurine very tightly in my arms and turned away from the woman. She was seething. Her kid screamed for a while until she managed to calm him down with Peppa Pig or something. She gave me the stink eye for the rest of the ride, but I did not care. I cannot actually believe that people like this exist. This basically sounds like, I have a kid, all your personal belongings belong to me for free. And I mean, if this was a Christmas story about a poor mom and her child who could not afford Christmas presents or something, then I would say okay. But I rarely get the feeling that the entitled parents act the way they do because they're in some sort of bad financial situation. Most of them think that they can get free stuff just because they have kids. Alright, let's get on to the next story.
We need that house more than you because we have kids.
5 years ago, my husband and I bought a house. We had been saving for years for the down payment and the stars must have aligned for us to get it. Everything worked out perfectly and the house was a major fixer-upper, but it had land and we were happy with that. Turns out my brother-in-law had looked at the house when it was listed as well. They decided it was too much work to fix it up and not worth it. They wanted major upgrades too, whereas my husband and I are very simple people. We don't need granite countertops or a soaking tub or hardwood throughout. So we met up with the family recently and the brother-in-law was talking about how cramped their condo has become with the 2 kids now. The brother-in-law decided this was the time to tell us that we should trade houses. I am not kidding you, my brother-in-law is very, very entitled. My brother-in-law proceeded to argue that we are only 2 people and their family is growing and could use the space. Literally suggested that we give ours to him and buy out his condo. I laughed. I knew he was serious, but I couldn't help but laugh. I had never in my life imagined that someone could be so damn entitled that they would demand someone to give up their home for the sake of another family. Are you kidding me? My brother-in-law then got mad at me for not even considering it and began justifying all the reasons his family needed our house more than us. Oh, you think this would be the worst part, right? No, it gets even better. We never finished the basement, so there's only 1 bathroom in the whole house. So my brother-in-law informed me that if we were to trade houses, that we would need to make some major upgrades first. He would not have the time to be able to make any renovations. He was somehow, inexplicably, certain that I would see the logic in this plan and just, trade houses with them. Because they needed the extra space so much more. And now my brother-in-law isn't talking to me because I left throughout the whole thing and wouldn't take him seriously. Basically a win-win situation. Go ahead, punish me by not talking to me. At least then you will stop trying to make me the bad guy because I have 2 spare rooms that I don't use. And by the way, my husband and I each have an office. And tell everyone how horrible I am because I wouldn't buy out your condo at market value while giving you ours out of the goodness of our hearts. Last I know, he was now trying to tell my father-in-law to retire and move into the city so they could have the farm. Joke's on him, my father-in-law already talked about it and has left the farm to me and my husband in his will. Because we actually farm and my brother-in-law thinks that it's too much work. I always thought the internet exaggerated that people like this really exist. Also, I thought that situations like this couldn't possibly be real. Yeah, don't we always think that those situations sound not too good to be true, but too bad to be true? But I mean, honestly, it's fine to do something for your family, but there has to be a barrier at some point. You cannot essentially give your house for free to your brother-in-law or sister-in-law and then basically get nothing in return. That's not called helping the family, but instead getting exploited. Did you ever have a family member that asked for too much? Tell me in the comments, I would really like to know if you had a situation with an entitled brother or sister or aunt, whatever. The next story is not about an entitled mother or parent, but instead about an entitled brother. So here we go. My entitled brother and my mom who enables him. Look, I know I will come across as a jealous piece of crap, but I'm not. My mom is narcissistic, very into herself and about maintaining her image. My brother is pretty much her carbon copy. My mom had me at 16 and tried to make things work with my dad who was 22 and in the Navy at the time. Of course, things did not work out, so we moved into my Grammy and puppy's house. My mom went to school, got her GED and then her nursing degree, and I pretty much was raised by my awesome grandparents. My mom got a great job working for the VA out of nursing school and we were able to get our own place. My mom would always pay for clothes, nails, hair, etc. and then whatever she had left went to bills, food and gas. My grandparents played Santa pretty much until I was 14 and I don't think my mom ever got me a birthday gift, but my grandparents did. When I was 9, she met a former Marine who was 20 years older than her. A nice guy, he actually treated me very good. Anyway, my mom got pregnant and had my brother. 5 years later, she divorced her husband and took him for everything he had. She got the house, alimony and child support. She used the alimony to spoil herself and my brother. And her salary went towards bills and food and the mortgage. Anyway, the minute I turned 16, I was forced to get a job and she made me buy my own food. And thankfully, my grandparents put me on their phone plan. I sailed through high school, got good grades and racked up scholarships. Thankfully, because she informed me that she would not be paying a dime for college and I would have to take out my own loans, which was 10 years ago. I live in California now and my mom and brother still live in Pennsylvania. I only check in with them maybe once a month. I talk to my brother mostly through Facebook and honestly if he was not my brother I would not have anything to do with him. He is super entitled and it really blows my mind. He's 19, lives at home with my mom, and she bought him a Mustang. Also, he doesn't have a job because he thinks retail or fast food is beneath him. He goes to school part-time and wants to become a millionaire through YouTube. I make a good living and I'm in a doctorate program out here. I have a fiance, a house, money in the bank, and I managed to get my grandparents moved into a retirement home out here which they love. Today, my mom tells me that she's transferring over to the VA about an hour away from me. The pay is better, also the cost of living out here, and her boyfriend got a job with his company out here. She tells me matter-of-factly their rental won't be ready until January 8th. So they, my mom, her boyfriend and her brother, will be staying with us. She then tells me that she's having my brother's gifts shipped here. She then asks me for $500 to hold her over until she starts working. I was livid and I still am, so I hung up on her as I was at work and couldn't even talk if I wanted to. Then I find out that they are moving because the house is being foreclosed on from my grandparents. My mom told my grandparents that I told them that I had put them up till they find a place. So not only do they expect to stay with me, which isn't happening, but she also lied to me about having a place. I have to call her back in an hour and I'm literally shaking with rage. Yeah, I mean, a story like that really depends on the relationship you have with your parents or family in general. I would personally let my family live in my own apartment, but I can understand that the OP is pissed off because his mom basically kicked him out or made him pay when he was super young and now she wants his own support. So yeah, I would definitely say we have a strong case of entitlement right here. Entitled mom at Trader Joe's. I'm normally not bothered by entitled moms, because parenting looks very not fun. But this woman pissed me right the F off. So I am at Trader Joe's, which is packed, and I grab a few items and get in the 15 items or fewer line. The woman in front of me has a full cart of items, way more than 15. So I politely ask, "Ma'am, are you in the 15 or fewer line? Because there are so many people and carts are scattered everywhere." She curtly replies,
Yes, I have kids in the car, so I need to be in the shortest line. And this was the shortest line.
She turns her back on me triumphantly, like she wants something. So I sigh and think of something clever to say. Almost immediately, an older woman gets in line behind me and says loudly,
That more than 15 items, isn't it?
I say just as loudly, "Yes, it is, but she does not care." The elder lady behind me says,
Well, aren't you rude?
and shoots her a dirty look. The woman, still showing no shame, turns her back on us. The older lady takes the passive-aggressive route. She says things like,
This is what's wrong with our country, and people are so entitled.
I just laugh out very loudly at everything the old lady says. The line proceeds forward and 15 plus cart mom turns to me and says,
I'm pretty sure I have less than 15 items. I counted.
I say, "I know you think you did," and stare her dead in the face, never breaking eye contact. She gets uncomfortable and looks away. Now it's 15 plus cart mom's turn and the cashier asks, "Ma'am, is this all your stuff?" She abruptly says,
Yes,
with a look in her face like,
I dare you to say something about it to me.
The cashier says very politely, "Ma'am, you should not be in this line. I could get in trouble with my boss for taking you in this line." The woman explodes.
That's total BS. I know I've got less than 15 items. I've got my kids in the car waiting for me. If you make me go to the end of the line, I'm never shopping here again. I'll go on Yelp and give you a bad review.
The cashier resigns to checking her out to keep the peace. The cashier then tells her that she has 37 items and she shrugs. He says, "Ma'am, please use one of the other lines next time. I would hate to lose my job." And this woman shrugs again.
It is what it is. Maybe you should find a nicer employer?
And she snatches her receipt from the cashier and saunters out the door. The cashier was not in the best mood after that, so I tried to cheer him up a little bit. But he then called for someone to take over so he could take a break, apologizing to me for the slight delay. I told him it was cool and that I was sorry that he had to deal with entitled people. I mean, here once again, we don't even just have entitlement that you can go first because you have kids in the car and 37 items, but also a complete lack of empathy for the poor cashier. So yeah, the EMs, they are not just entitled, but they are also just douchebags. Anyway guys, that was the entitled parent content for today. And before I continue, I would ask you to please like the video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future uploads in case you enjoy my content. If you did not like something, please not only just click the dislike button, but also tell me what I can do better next time. But now let's hop right into r/church drama, because I know that you guys really enjoy this content. I was raised in a cult. Some backstory. I was raised in what is known as the Apostolic Church, which is a very hardline, super strict sect of Christianity. After getting out and going through therapy, I have learned that my church was a cult that used the apostolic doctrine as a cover for its own agenda to abuse, control and manipulate the members. Also, I will mention that my father, who I barely spoke to, is still an assistant pastor at this church. I am 24 and from birth to 20 I went to this church. The bishop is a nasty, controlling, manipulative abuser. I never understood how this man could get in the pulpit every Sunday and scream and yell at the members about how terrible they were, and all these people continued to come back for years. But in this church, he is the law. You had to consult him on your every day-to-day activities like buying a car, getting a job or going on vacation, and, getting worse, what you could and couldn't do in the bedroom with your spouse. If the young people could be interested in each other, if we could hang out with extended family, etc. It was such a controlled environment. It even had a private school so that the children would be around ungodly people. So this church had a program for at-risk youth. They would take them in, put them in members' houses, send them to school and try to save them. On to the first story. I left when I was 20 because I found out that multiple people that are very important to me were in that program and were victims of the pastor. He abused them for years, and from the stories that I was told, he would minister to them while he was abusing them in order to validate what he was doing. I couldn't stay after that. I was very vocal on social media about it. And suddenly, all these Christians threatened my life, tried to retaliate against me, and his granddaughter even came up to my job and threatened me. As a side note, I weighed 150 lbs heavier than I do right now, and this girl was about 115 lbs. Like, why would you even try, seriously? Eventually, the victims came out to the police and we found out that his son and son-in-law were also abusers. We are waiting on the big court date and I will keep updating as it continues. Wow, I really hope that this guy is brought to justice as soon as possible. Here another comment from the thread that I thought was pretty interesting. I went to an apostolic church for 7 years after my uncle was murdered from when I was 11 to 18. I can attest to every point you are making. These kind of churches are cults for the most part. They want to know what you are doing every day, every moment, don't make decisions without sitting with the pastor first, and it was a really weird environment to grow up in, looking back. There were times when people in the congregation would tell you to skip school to come to church because
God is more important than some stupid books.
Well, the Apostolic Church sounds like a church I would rather not join. Anyway, let's hop on right to the next story. People from church read my therapist's journal and decide to tell everyone. I will start with some backstory. During a bit of my life a few years back, I had started going to a certain church with my uncle after I joined a private Christian school. My uncle would pick me up from school and we would go to church every Wednesday and Sunday. During this time, my uncle had also taken in a family under his wing, but these people were not related to us at all, but still, his kind heart treated them like they were. Later, this family would betray us and being total jerks, but that is another story. I had been going to this church for a while and that's where I met my first boyfriend. Long story short, he effed up with my head and manipulated my innocent, pure mind into doing dirty things on the phone with him. Basically, not so pure anymore and quite a deviant now. For me at the time, this was new and weird. Well, one day after breaking up with me and I just being emotionally distant, I was heartbroken and alone. This is where an old friend of mine comes in, and I know there's a lot of loopholes in the story, but I'm not going into detail for every person just for the sake of keeping this short. We ended up reconnecting and invited me to sleep over. She ended up inviting some men over and started to smoke something out of a pipe, which I don't remember what it was. Long story short, while high as a kite, one of the men ended up using my body and ran away after finding out that this 18-year-old was in fact not 18 but 14 at the time. After that incident I needed therapy and my body had been used and I was looking for control over it again. I felt like I didn't have control over myself or my body. Then here comes my boyfriend. He swoops back in to comfort me, little did I know at the time. He ended up having sex with me for the first time, but it was horrible sex, all one-sided, especially his side. Then just a week later, he started hooking up with a new girl. That's exactly when I learned the type of guy he was, but at the time it was devastating. He was supposed to support me and help me, but not betray me. I broke down completely. Every day I would leave school in the middle of the day to try and go jump off the water tower nearby or try to run into traffic. It was horrible until I started therapy. That's when my therapist suggested that I keep a journal to write my thoughts into, and I did. Finally, here's the church drama part. So I had been writing in this journal for a while now and I had a lot of suicidal and just generally messed up things in my head that I was trying to work out. One day, while getting ready for church, one of the girls from the family my uncle was caring for decided to dig through my bag, for who knows why. She found my journal and read it without a second thought. Later, my mental health had gotten so bad that I dropped out of school and the only social life I had was that church, but little did I know that during the week when we weren't having church, they were spreading rumors. She told my family and hers about my mental health and my journal. Not only did they try to scare the church people from me, but they tried to scare my uncle and my blood family from me. They found a piece of drama and ran through the hills with it. They told people that I was dangerous and that I would hurt people. I was not allowed to work in the nursery anymore and I wasn't allowed near children or babies anymore. I was kicked out of school because I was unsuitable to be around children and need to repent for my sins by going to church even more. I just stopped going to church, to school, or even leaving the house. Back then, I was strongly believing in God. I thought maybe there is a God and I wanted to work for them and do all that godly stuff. But after those incidents, I lost all my faith, not only in God, but also humanity. Obviously, I'm way better off now. I have a partner, I'm a pagan, and I enjoy the teaching of many gods and the free-spirited people I met. Life has gotten way better, but I still struggle sometimes with the memories of those people. Yet again, info about the ex-boyfriend and other family were kept short because going into the backstory and who they were would have tripled the length of this post, and just know they weren't the best people, but possibly the worst. That is probably one of the most depressing stories I've ever read on here. I'm curious if any of you are religious, and maybe if you are part of one of those free churches or whatever you might call them. How do these churches or the communities treat disabled people? I'm really quite curious about that, because I know that in some religious communities they try to keep the disabled people basically in the background because they think that those people were punished by God or something like that. So yeah, please share in the comments or maybe on the subreddit if you have any experiences of that sort. Alright guys, that was the video for today. Once again, thank you so much for over 1000 subscribers and the continuous support from all of you. You wouldn't believe how happy I am each day to read all your comments, to see the views, the likes. Honestly, it's almost addictive. So thank you so much and please continue to watch my videos. Also, as usual, if you have any other subreddit bonus requests, please tell me what you would like to hear. But actually I do prefer subreddits that have stories instead of little pictures or something. So I hope you have a great day and see you tomorrow with the next daily upload.